Thank you all so much for joining another episode of Celeste the Therapist podcast. My name is Celeste. I am a therapist from Boston, Mass. I have a really special guest. I'm going to have you introduce yourself to my audience.
Thank you. My name is Joseph Barksdale, from Detroit, Michigan. Musician, former NFL player, and I do stand-up comedy as well.
Nice. I can't wait to hear about the comedy. I know that's new for you. And I love comedy. So I always think about people on stage and I'm like, I don't know how they do it. People say the same thing about me as a therapist, but I can't wait to hear about that journey. So one of the things my audience knows we do on the show is we want to get to know you. We know what you are doing now, but how did you get there is important. Because I think that storytelling can help people like have hope and know they're not alone. So you grew up in Detroit. You guys are known for cars, right? Detroit?
I don't know what we're known for these days. We were known for cars when I was born, but that was before the recession.
That was before the recession. Then the Lions. Yeah. You guys are known Detroit Lions.
I hope not.
What was it like growing up in Detroit years ago?
Your typical inner city Detroit experience. I mean, from being jumped and robbed to, catching the bus to school, to and from school. Just, growing up in the inner city. I mean, all the things the rappers rap about, minus selling drugs. I never sold drugs, but.
Oh, okay.
I just want to put that out. But yeah.
So you're saying kind of like you grew up in the hood pretty much.
Yeah, I grew up on the west side, 7 Mile and Schaefer. 7 Mile and Schaefer. It was funny because when I was growing up, it was just a regular neighborhood to me. And we went back to pass out some, this was like a couple years ago. We went back to pass out some flyers. I do a backpack giveaway in the city every year. This is my first time being back in that neighborhood in the daytime in like a long time. And I was like, hey, we need to hurry up and get out of here. We did a couple flyers and, one dude came to the door in his draw.
It's so interesting. It's interesting how we get content. Like we live in an area and we don't recognize like that we're living a certain way because it's all we know, right? Mm-hmm. Like that was my life. This is where I lived. Like people get robbed, people get jumped, people get bullied, but this is life.
Yeah. Stay out the way.
Stay out the way. One of the things that you talked about is some of your earliest memories. One of them you talked about getting whooped by your grandmother, right? Do you remember that time when you talked about that being like your earliest memory? Why do you think that memory stuck out for you the most? What do you think it was about that memory that sticks out for you?
It hurt. And I mean, not just
physically.
Not just physically, but like it hurt my feelings. I was 3 years old. I got left in the car. I was 3. Wasn't in the car seat or anything. Told not to touch anything. I don't know any 3-year-olds you could leave in a running car that's not going to touch anything. But I touched things. The car ended up crashing into another car. And then next thing I know, I'm getting a whooping. I didn't understand it. So I would say like this, it was a mixture of just, confusion and pain for sure.
Yeah. And then, you talked about bullying, you talked about some abuse that took place, but also another prominent memory that stuck out was losing a really good friend. Tell people, well, it was at 8 years old, right? You lost one of like your really close friends. Tell people about that experience, because I feel like when I listen to you talk about that, after you talk about it, I'll explain to people. I feel like when things are not really like discussed, it sits in our system and it creates more and more pain. And especially in film, like Black people, church. I don't know if you grew up in church, but church was like one of the only areas where like you can cry or like experience something that was outside of your home. So tell people about that experience of being 8.
I had a friend named Janae, um, and we, yeah, we were really close growing up. One of my, I mean, she was probably, like, especially as a toddler and stuff, like my best friend. I saw her all the time. And one day my parents picked me up from school early, and took me to my grandma's house and turned the news on. And there was a breaking story about this girl who had gotten raped and beat to death in her bedroom of her house. And it was Janae. And the broadcast stopped, the TV went off. That was the last time we talked about it. I mean, we never talked about it. That
We
was
never talked
how
about it,
I
yeah.
found out. Yeah.
And
Oh, by the way, your friend's dead. Anyway, make sure you knock out that homework.
right.
Um, but yeah,
And,
it's definitely something that affected me, and I didn't realize how bad it affected me until we had our first daughter. Um, and like every time I would hear her cry, that's my first thought is like, is she getting, like raped and beat? That's like my automatic thought, and that's something that I've been working on with my therapist. It's been what, Kennedy's 5 now, so I think I'm better. But yeah, that was something that something I'm still trying to work through in certain aspects for sure.
wow, that's an important connection. And so one of the things I want the audience members to know, I think, when it comes to our caregivers, they didn't know what to do about that. They didn't understand the results of not having conversation with you. Um, Joe talked about having panic attacks starting that night, not being able to like watch the news.
Oh
And
yeah,
and I, you still can't watch the news, right? And I think that it's important, for people to understand that just because a situation is done, like literally, like she's buried, doesn't take the pain away.
mm,
And a lot of times when I'm working with clients, and the first thing I do is I hear their story, and so whatever's happening in the now, and I start making connections. They was like, yeah, but that was 20 years ago. I said, yeah, but your body keeps the score, right? So I don't think you're listening to you talk about what happened with Janae, and like, I didn't hear about your daughter until today, just now. But the way that you've related it to your daughter definitely makes a lot of sense as to why you felt that way. And it's great that you've been able to make that connection with like your daughter, because you could just start having panic attacks with your daughter crying and not knowing why. But it's did you make that connection as soon as it started to happen? Like you start
as
to
soon as
feel
it started to
fearful?
happen, yeah, like
Yeah.
I remember they pulled her out the womb, and I was like, you hear the kid scream, almost punch the doctor. No, I didn't punch the doctor. But like you want to. I mean, as a parent, you want to protect your child, and I can't speak for how other people's brains work. But I can't stop my mind from going the worst case scenario.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I think sometimes it takes like events like that for you to for it to really hit home to you how much it affected you or how much it
Yeah.
still affects you.
And for a lot of people experience that the way the worst case scenario. And I want people to understand the reason why our mind goes into worst case scenario, because it's trying to protect us. At some point in our lives we were not protected, and a lot of times in Joe's life he was not protected. And so like we tend to build this like system where our amygdala stays activated, and then we end up just activating that amygdala with our own thoughts of worries and fears. And so, but it sounds like you're doing a lot of work to ground yourself so that you're not allowing that fear to be the lens and the way you operate.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You said it perfectly. Yeah, it can. If
No, what you want to say? Say what you want to say.
Oh no, that was it. Just if I'm gonna be alive, I'm not just gonna be alive and paralyzed by fear. Like I have to be moving, doing something. So I'm saying, yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
So for my audience, naming it is important, and working on creating grounding routines is important, because unfortunately, like we can't erase the things that we've experienced, And I think for a long time, like I've always like I grew up depressed, but never like naming it. I've until I became an adult, I was able to understand. But I know I stayed in a depressive state because I'm always like, how can I be happy with everything that's happened?
Yeah.
And so I've definitely changed my outlook and recognized, you know what, I'll never be able to change what's happened. I can only look at where I'm going, and
Mm.
that has helped tremendously. So now you go to high school, and
Mhm.
then tell me about college. Like, how did you end up getting into college, being in the inner city? Because I started in Boston, right? And then Boston is pretty known for academics, Boston, Mass. I ended up in Georgia my last 2 years in high school in a small town, and they're known for the military. I ended up joining the military, didn't like it, and then started college. But I don't know if I knew I wanted to go to college. Nobody in my family went to college. So how did you decide? Like, what was your mindset around
I
that?
was trying to get out the house, and I had been told from like a young age, because I was always a bigger kid. Like I grew at a steady pace. I was 7 pounds 6 ounces when I was born, but I just kept growing. Um, my parents told me I was gonna have to be rich in order to live. I mean, when I was a kid, I was, in the husky section to the short adult section of clothes at a very young age. And, I mean, I remember seeing my parents. I mean, my mom, like my dad didn't shop much, but my mom, especially when she would go out and get Easter suits that no one asked for. Oh,
Why are we like
oh, I
that?
don't know. I mean, it was like I was talking to a friend of mine about that. At first, I thought it was just my parents. I'm like, man, some parents will raise you like they're doing you a favor. Like, my parents raised me like it was a, raining, storming night, lightning was in the air, a nun showed up to the door. Hey, can you take him? We can't find anywhere else for him. And, all right, I guess. And that's how I was raised. Like, you're lucky we grabbed you from that nun. But that's why I knew, like whenever we would go get something to eat or, you better eat all that food too, ordering all that damn food. We ain't made the money, those kind of things. So
Dang.
from my point of view, I just always had to be, like I had to be rich. So from my point of view, I was always trying to go to college because I was either going to go to college or sell drugs and start rapping. So, but I
Wait,
know.
but black men, I feel like rapping, sports, or drugs. Like, I don't think, especially with you being, people look at your height. How tall are you?
6'5".
Oh, okay. So they look at your height and automatically, like, I think it's kind of like, oh, you can play something or do something in that arena. Do you feel like that's the case for black boys?
Yeah, I mean, I talk about it on comedy stage too. People find out you don't play sports, or you lie and say you don't play sports. So you just big for no reason. It's like, yeah, I've been hearing that my whole life, like from my parents, and like it's funny, but it pisses me the fuck off.
I bet it does.
Because I've been hearing it for so long. Like, and don't let it be a person who's not black saying. I'm like,
That would be worse.
like it's their first time saying it, but it's my millionth time hearing it, and it's like, oh, you son of a. But yeah, like you hear that all the time. You play football? No, oh, you just big for no reason, huh? Like I'm a security guard. I can't work at the mall. Like I can't do nothing else but play sports. Like
I
people
can
put
be
that
an
on.
engineer, like, you know what I'm
And that's what I
saying?
started as. I started as a STEM
Uh-huh.
kid. The way I got into football, I got kicked out of engineering. I'm also autistic. I was doing some autistic things and got kicked out of engineering camp.
What is some autistic thing?
This kid asked a question. He was trying to be funny. It wasn't funny. And my idea, it was a stupid question. So I hit him on the back of the neck in the middle of class. And he started flipping over tables and computers. And we both got kicked out. Now he had a $20,000 bill. I just got kicked. I just got kicked out. But that's how I got into football. I needed something to do over the summer to stay out of trouble. And I was like, you know what? I could get in shape playing football. I saw Remember the Titans do a couple up downs, defeat racism in championships. Well, I'm gonna be all right. I remember I stepped on that football field and we were running. We were running like wind sprints or something. The first day I showed up, oh man, fuck this football shit. I'm tired. Like
Wait,
Coach
how
is
old
like,
were
what
you?
position you want to play? I'm like, Coach, I don't watch sports. I don't know nothing about this game. Like, who's the free throw shooter? Nigga, this is football. Like,
Wait,
y'all
how
got a
old were you
small
when
forward
this
out here?
happened? Tell me, how
Huh?
old were you? How old were you?
Like 15, 16. And everybody calling me, you're soft. You're just so soft. I just started playing. You've been playing for 12 years. Like, can I learn what I'm supposed to do before you start calling me a soft bitch? Like, you know what I'm saying? And then eventually, the F word gets tossed around, Are you gay? Is that why you want to hit me body? It's like, nah, I just learned this yesterday. That's why I won't hit me body. I'm a little unsure.
Wait, so you fell into football, literally, you fell into football, and when did you start liking, or when did you realize like you can do more with it?
First time embarrassing somebody. I don't know if I put somebody on their back. I don't know what it was. I just remember everybody going, oh, and it was addictive. Like,
Oh, because usually like going from being bullied to being praised in that way was probably like, whoa,
yeah, you go from
this is
being
what it
bullied to the bully. That's exactly what happens. My turn now. Like, even in the
Bam.
league, like I don't do a lot. I never did a lot of talking, like because football, you got a lot of cats who like grew up in different areas and they on the football field, and we got regulations, so they think they're gonna get hit in the mouth. Bro, we at practice. I hit you in the mouth. Like I pay the fine. I don't care. We're not just about to talk. This ain't no rap battle. But that's what it was for me. Like I was able to hit other people legally and get out some of that like frustration. I didn't realize at the time that like if I was, I'm thinking like by the time I'm done playing football, I would have worked out all my issues, all my anger, all that kind of stuff. And I didn't realize until like after I retired that I really only worked out like the tip of the iceberg. Actually, a little bit before I retired, but I realized I'd only worked out the tip of the iceberg. Like there was so much more. I mean, so much more that I'm like, do I want to keep going? But
I
um,
feel like though that football provided some form of coping mechanism without you realizing it. Because if you're running, you're doing all these activities, the adrenaline's going. So if you're depressed or anxious, it kind of offsets a little bit. Do you feel like that was the case when you were on the field?
it gave me a feeling of purpose.
Mm.
Until I started playing football, I was a pet, like just some big kid that my parents would complain about until their friends were around. Then they would show me off like a new slave. Come down here, stand up, show them how big you are. Turn around, pick up that couch. Dog, are you about to sell me to these people? Like, do some push-ups.
Damn, you must have internalized all of that.
You said what?
You must have internalized all of that.
Oh, for sure.
Damn.
In my mind, yeah, I definitely internalized all of that. Like, I think it's
Yeah.
one of the reasons why I'm so ambitious to be known as what I want to be known as.
I love
Um,
that.
but yeah, like that was childhood. I mean, it was really like a dog. Like, I mean, imagine if you had a dog that you birthed.
I know.
You're supposed to be seen in that herd, do a couple tricks. We may feed you. Shut the fuck up.
Damn. That's tough. Now you ended up in the NFL. How did that process go for you?
I never saw myself going to the NFL. I was just trying to get a college scholarship. It was always like people outside of me saw more in me than I did. I thought I was just gonna come to college. I wanted to get on the field, but I never thought I would go past that. I was still in an engineering major when I first got to college.
And you didn't get a scholarship for sports, you said, right? You got it
Yeah, I
for
got my scholarship for sports. My first scholarships were not for sports. But when the
okay.
sports scholarships started coming, it was like the whole country found out, oh, he's finally playing football. Let's go get him. But he
They
finally picked
seen
up
that
that
weight.
helmet. Yeah. But I don't know. Like I kept playing. It became intoxicating for me to embarrass people on the football field. And I don't mean embarrass people like trash talking and all that other kind of stuff. Just you couldn't do your job because I was so good at my job. That's it. Apparently there's a premium for that in the NFL if you're good at what you do. And that's kind of how it happened for me. I always wanted to just be effective. I wanted to be the reason the team won as opposed to, someone that
That
the team
feels
had to
good.
overcome.
Right. And I feel like you've been dealing with the overcoming stuff growing up with in your family of feeling like a burden. It's like now I don't have to be a burden. Like I can actually do something
Yeah.
like meaningful, you know?
Until you get injured, then you feel like a burden again. Yeah.
Yeah. But before the injury, you were a part of the league when people started kneeling down, right?
Yeah.
What now how long were you in the league by that time before that took place?
What was that, like 2015, 2016?
Mhm.
So probably like 5, 6 years.
So you was in it.
Mm-hmm.
Um and who were you playing for by then?
Chargers.
Chargers. So you're playing for the Chargers and then this stuff starts happening. What was it a no-brainer for you? Did you contemplate it like the whole kneeling thing like cuz that was a big deal when it first started. What was that like for you um when this stuff happened?
I don't know. There are a lot of different feelings. There's a part of me that's like, and these are internal thoughts. Like taking a knee on Sunday ain't gonna bring Janae back. Like it's not gonna,
Mhm.
those kind of things. But then there's another part of me that's like, well, somebody's got to do something, and it can't
Damn.
just always be the cool NBA players,
Mhm.
with their racially tolerant coaches and infrastructure.
Mhm.
Uh, it felt damn near like a slave revolt, kind of.
Damn.
Like
Shit.
you get
I
you
never
got
heard
fans,
it named that way.
you got fans that are sitting in the audience, like I mean, because you're talking about it like Trayvon Martin, all these cats are getting shot repeatedly. And
Right.
fans are just in the stands cheering for their team. But then when the dude that looks like you that's getting shot, you want to say something about it to help make your community a better place. Now you in the wrong area. Like now
Mhm.
this is football time. And I could just imagine how many abolitionist meetings there were. And it's like, but it's Sunday. We can't talk about freeing the slaves on Sunday. Like, you know, with people talking, stand up for the anthem. You stand your ass up while you sit in the chair. Like, stand up
On
to the anthem, sir.
drinking beers, eating hot dogs, cussing people out.
Yeah, ordering beers. My man, let me get a beer. You better stand y'all ass. Make that 2 beers, my guy. Stand y'all asses up. Like, you actively, you know. And you get people talking about, like, they're protesting the flag. You think somebody grew up in this country, worked as hard as they could to try to get their little slice of pie, the American dream, just to protest the fucking flag? You know how many different ways there are to protest the flag? Like burning a flag, like flying a Confederate flag, even though it's an act of treason. I mean, I could keep the Nazi Germany flag. What?
I
But we're
know.
protesting the flag.
I
When
know.
in actuality, the United States flag is not supposed to be worn on like any clothing, used on any designs, any
I
advertising.
know. It's
The
always.
same people that's talking about we protesting the flag and you shitting on the flag. You are actively disobeying rules, and people are respectfully taking a knee because people that look like them are getting shot because everyone's gun feels like a fucking taser. Like,
Shit.
it doesn't make sense to me. It pissed me off, you know, because I hear these fans. And I mean, really, like you start to realize, like, damn, this is a racist fan base. I remember I heard a fan say something about, because sometimes you overhear people. Someone was trying to explain to this other fan about why players were taking knees, and the fan was, well, at least they're not in Africa anymore.
Oh my God.
How we get to Africa? That's at least 500 years ago. Like, how we go all the way back to Africa? At least they're not in the sweaty jungles of not. Like, shut up. But that's, I don't know. In
Oh,
my mind, the football fan base went from like, a bunch of people that don't care about you at all to a bunch of racists that really don't care about you at all.
for real. For real.
It's like, bro, I mean, the whole shut up and dribble and,
So
I
you've
didn't like it.
even before that, you've always been mindful of because I've never like it makes sense. You said it sounded like a slave revolt. You always mindful of like the fact that you were just entertainment for some people. You weren't a
Oh, for
person.
sure. That
Oh,
shit used
okay.
to kill me when I was playing football. You get in first class or something, or you in a nice store. What position do you play, Hoss? And it's like, nah, I can't
Sorry.
be I can't be a well-paid security guard. Like, I'm not even trying to say I'm a doctor, but like, I can't be.
Right.
I don't know. I can't be selling Forex. Like, I just have to be playing sports, you know. And I think about it. I was talking to my therapist about that. Like, I feel like my ancestors are just like, what the fuck? What do we do all that? Like, my grandma, we got all them ass whoopings, you know, stood on, you know, stayed on these buses, did all these sit-ins, fucking Doberman sicked on us. So you can go tap dance on the football field? Like, I felt that way. Like, I really felt that. And people would laugh, but like, I would, that's how I would really feel, like a sellout, you know, like,
Damn,
you did all this and
sucks.
you're doing sports. And then I leave sports to do music and comedy. And it's like, oh my God. Jesus Christ! Like, just go grab some watermelon while you're at it. Like,
no, you're so.
But that's how I feel.
You're also a mental health advocate, Joe.
No, that's true.
Okay. So, all right. So you're funny. When you can like take your story and create, take your pain and create laughter, like that's not an easy thing to do. But
I learned that when I was 8, baby. You know, I was cracking
know.
jokes after I saw that news report. Raped and murdered, huh? No, I'm just. I don't even have a punchline for that, but.
No, I get it, but that was that like laughter is the way, you know, they say Black people, we can't, like COVID, we call it the vid, or we don't know how to, you know, we find a way. Yeah, we always figure out a way to make it out, and it definitely helps.
Oh, that's the thing. It doesn't help me get out. It's just a shield. Like,
oh, so you don't think it helps?
Like the national anthem thing, like the taking a knee, like it really pissed me off. But I'm able to, like, you know, crack jokes about it. That don't mean I'm not pissed, you know. Yeah. Like Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock, you know, it's like, oh, that was a good punchline. I mean, that man's angry, but that was a good punchline, you know. Like, that's, or that man's feelings are hurt. We talked about the big for no reason thing earlier. Yeah. You know, so it was always a way for me to hide my emotion, you know. You too big to cry. You too big to, I'm too big to do anything but play football. And you know what really pisses me off? Because I'm pretty sure there are people who are listening. I'm 6'5". The thing that would piss me off the most would be when there would be some 6'4" sloppy motherfucker coming at me talking about, damn, bro, you so big. Nigga, I guarantee you. You 1 inch shorter than me talking about, oh, you too big. Like, you too big to be commenting on what big niggas should be doing. Like, I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. We got to get okay. So we're about to get out of the NFL with his story, because now you're kind of like, I say in quotations, you're saving grace with football because you were able to find purpose. I do believe when we have a purpose, it helps us a little bit with life and getting through life, because life can feel long and hard without a purpose. Not that it changes when you have a purpose, but it's not as gruesome, I feel. So you were able to find a purpose in football, but then you get hurt.
Kind of.
Yeah. I know, because you had mixed feelings about it, but you had.
Well, I never put much stock in it just because I know, like, I mean, even to this day, it's hard for me to make friends, because when you're good at what you do, you don't know if people are trying to be cool with you because of that, or, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's the same with comedy now. Like, comedians will come up to me like, that was a great set. That was a good job. And I'm like, did they really mean that? Or people will come up to me like, oh, that was a good job. And I'm like, do they really mean that though? I don't know. Let's go work harder and get better. Like, just, you know, just in case they don't mean that. I'm not trying to be embarrassed. But I was always just trying to get better in football. Like, I don't know if I ever saw it as like, I feel like if I thought that my purpose was to play football, like I wouldn't be alive.
So you, I guess that makes sense, because if you didn't really get into it until 15, most people, they've dreamt about it. They're in Pop Warner at 8 and 7, and you didn't take that same route. So it was just
those speeches too. It's the same game we've been playing since we were 6. Time out.
I was.
I was at a book fair when I was 6, like, and Goosebumps, and, you know, mystery novels, talking about just the game. It was just something I could never connect with. People would be so excited for the opportunity to play in the NFL. And I just looked at it as like someone being so excited for the opportunity to like go outside and pick cotton. Like I've dreamt about this my whole life, Lordy Lord. I mean, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
there's a paycheck attached.
Like, you know, I don't know.
Joe, but there's a paycheck attached. But I hear you. I get it.
Well, there's definitely a paycheck attached. But now we got to talk about how much is your soul worth. How many prostitutes have you interviewed? Well, not have you interviewed, but we actually have a prostitute every week, Joe. We call it Thirsty Thursdays. But like how many prostitutes do people talk to that
especially after
got paid and feel empty inside?
Right,
that money just fills this eternally huge gaping hole in your heart. It just goes in. It doesn't seal it or make you feel any better. You know,
that's a good point. And
especially I tried to lean back on that, like, well, you know, at least I'm getting paid. But there's another part in my head, like, yeah, but you still a pickaninny, like, or you still a, you know, like you so, like you just a rich fool, like you.
It says a lot for people who think, and I don't want to minimize people that are struggling financially, but I think that money isn't the only thing that brings us joy or peace. As you know, it can help where we have a place to live, but
money can't bring you joy and peace at all. Like I wouldn't even put that in the category. Like money.
So it can't bring you joy and peace, but like for people that are trying to like live and feed their family, I get it, right? But I'm just saying in general, people will have their like essential needs met and find themselves struggling thinking, well, look at Joe, like he's on the NFL, he has all this money, he must be happy, right? So I'm glad that you kind of said this out loud, because it shows people that it's not everybody, no matter what income bracket or what you've experienced, has struggles. It doesn't take it away. There's internal
like
work that has to be done.
The more money some cats make, like the more pills and stuff they're on too. You know, like people don't talk about that kind of stuff, but
right,
you know, living in those areas and moving in those circles, like I mean,
well,
I think that's one of the reasons why I started talking more, because I would think that these suburban cats are like doing well. These suburban cats are more suicidal than these inner city cats.
Yeah, you know? And it makes sense, you know, when you think about people like taking more pills and stuff and making more money, because it's like there's something that's not congruent. It's like, okay, I thought that when I reached here I would be okay. I'm still not okay. So they try to like figure out, how do I make myself okay, because this isn't working. So it says,
let me grab my Bible. It's a perfect opportunity for me to talk about the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
What?
You got a God-sized hole in your heart you need to fill. Cut that music on. You got open up your Bible.
I was like, is he serious? Like, is he serious?
Oh no. Is this man about to evangelize? Hold on, brother.
I did say I grew up in church. Maybe he thought no, it's okay.
But you know what? Speaking of church, though, I will say this as someone from like, you know, growing up in Black church, that kind of thing. You talking about the mental health thing. These people with these mental health issues do not have demons. I know Jesus casted out demons in this dude in the Bible, and they went into the pit. Everybody ain't the dude in the Bible that was cutting himself in the tomb, all right? Like, I can't tell you how many times I've talked about mental issues in predominantly white churches, and then the few Black people come up, I'm going to be praying for you, baby. I don't know what these white folks have done to you. I'm like, what? I don't know what kind of demon infested. You can get them demons out of you. That's not a mental illness. I think it's a mental illness. Like I think my years.
Oh, was it just our church people that think of it as demons? It's not all church people.
I am demon possessed.
I didn't know that. I mean, I knew I know Black churches. I didn't know white churches did the same thing.
Black people in white churches and white people too, but it's more Black people in white church. You know, I mean, you know, Black people, bro. Like a Black person will stub his toe. That's the devil. Like, no, you clumsy. Like, you clumsy. That's not Satan. Everything ain't Satan.
Well, they don't like taking responsibility. You gotta take responsibility at some point.
You ain't lying. You're right. Because you go back to your Black parent talking about all the trauma you endured, but were them bills paid? I hear what you're talking. I'm mentally ill, but are you? But do you have money in your pocket? You're welcome. Like they raised you like they were doing you a favor.
I know.
But yeah.
So Joe, you ended up hurt. You left the NFL and struggled, had a few suicide attempts.
Yeah.
Um After your last
This
suicide
before
attempt.
this before the most of these were before then. I don't need nobody thinking I quit football and tried to kill myself. These were
Oh
before.
yes, yes. Thank you.
Because
This
I
was
know they're sitting there
before.
like didn't care about football, but then he tried to Yeah.
Something ain't right.
Some ain't adding up. Let me get my calculator.
So
But yeah.
I think about all of these experiences from your childhood, to depression, to the anxiety, and then now you football was something you were doing to just get by. Now you don't have football. What goes on in your mind at that point when you decide to like leave football?
I don't want to be remembered for this. I want to be known
Mm.
as more
Cotton picking.
than a football player. No, like not
Mm.
even on no King, yo, but just like I just wanted to be known as more than a
Sorry.
football player. I mean, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson gives a really good speech to the Lakers. This was a couple years ago. I saw it on YouTube. He was like, "There's just he realized like this isn't what I want to be known as. I want people to remember me as like." And now I'm talking about myself again. I don't want people to remember me as, oh, Joe Barksdale, that dude that played in football, won the NFL, even though he was only 16 when he started. But nah, fuck that. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like there's more to
Yeah.
life. There's more that I can do. There's more that I can offer the world. And the things that I'm doing now are those things that I've technically been doing since I was like 4 or 5. Like I've always loved
Yeah.
music. I've always been funny, looking. But you know what I'm saying? Like I've always, but I've
Wait,
always,
okay. So that's really good. So this is a good I want to pause here for people that are struggling with maybe they were doing something for a long time. Your career path changed tremendously from STEM to
yeah.
NFL to music and comedy. And I think if we're still breathing, there's room for change. But I think your thought process was like, I want to be remembered for more. But you still were able to make that pivot, which it's hard, even though it's not like football was your everything. It was still had to be a hard pivot to jump into, especially like going into music from football had to be a difference, right?
Yeah, I mean the same way Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson trying to be taken seriously as an actor after leaving
I
wrestling
know.
was, or Drake trying to be taken seriously. I know people who like grew up watching Degrassi, and they said they remember when they heard Drake talking about he wanted to be Drake. Shut your ass up and get back in
I
that
think
wheelchair. Talking about he trying to be a rapper. Well, you better wrap something around them lips, and get back on that show. Like,
I'm sure it was hard, but did you have confidence in yourself to do it?
yeah, you got to. You know how many?
Okay.
And here's what the confidence comes in. It's not. It's
Okay.
when people listen to your music and it's like, wow, hey, this is actually good. Like, uh, that's kind of an insult. Like, it's like eating something like, hey, I was expecting to be vomited out of anger right now, but this is all right. Like, this, you got some more? And it's like, man, fuck you. No, I ain't got no more. No. That's what people
So
say. Because,
music has
huh?
no, I was gonna say music's been always been a part of your life,
It's
even
always been
from
a
a
part
young
of my life. I
age.
grew up in black church, so you know about them,
Mhm.
80 member choirs in the same matching robes, all swaying and shimmying at the same time, like one tambourine player. It's 90 of y'all. But music's always been a part of my life. And like I said before, comedy has been my way to hide my emotions. But I realize that they are both tools to help people. I don't, I mean, there's a bunch of different types of music I could be doing. I mean, obviously, I fell into the soul, but I don't know. Like, I could have just as easily been doing grunge rock and heavy metal, talking about super dark stuff, or
Die.
yeah, like I love death. Da, 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 da. Like, all right, guys, we're gonna play Joe's single now. Is this a black guy? Oof. But but yeah, like I do it I connect with people through pain. I realize like you're talking
Mhm.
about purpose. That's one of my
Yeah.
purposes. That's one of my
Mhm.
purposes. Like
Yeah.
to connect with people through pain. Because like even with the jokes, the songs, like they all come from like, play okay, they don't all come from places of pain. But like It's
A lot of
me
them
trying
do.
to wrestle with my emotions and be understood from a mental health standpoint, from a marginalized minority standpoint, from a person who's just living in a world that wasn't built for him, being autistic.
Right.
You know, like there's a lot of people like me who can't even talk.
Right.
You know, um, and so I just feel like those perspectives on top of the related, because people, oh, you playing football, you're not relatable. It's like I'm one of the most relatable people you'll ever meet
Yeah,
because
you are.
all the underlying stuff that have happened. Like I've yet to meet a person that I'm like working with and talking to, whether it's been in a drug rehab program or a homeless person on the street, just anyone, whoever, that I have not been able to say, oh, I know how that feels. Not like I can only imagine, but God has a plan.
Right.
My message is
Right.
different. I still think God has a
Different.
plan. I believe in God, but I know how it feels. And we can just talk
Yep.
about how much it sucks. Because it sucks.
Yes.
And I'm not going to sit here and try to get you to, don't say that. Don't think that way.
Yes.
Like, no, because if you
So
try to,
important.
you deny those thoughts, eventually they come back. Like they're not leaving,
Yeah. What?
But I think that I have a gift of speaking to incredibly difficult things in an easy way. I mean, I made a couple suicide jokes. You thought they were funny. Therapists don't laugh at suicide jokes.
Well, no, because in my sessions, I'm the same way. People will be crying and they'll be laughing at the end. I've always kind of like found myself giving some comic relief at some point. So I relate to you in a lot of ways. Yeah. Do you orchestrate your own music as well? Like, because you seem like you have a really creative mind, the way you
do
everything.
I got. This is about to look like the Kanye West documentary, but I got like 5 guitars over here. There's a keyboard back there. I got my drum machine, my Akai MPC Live.
Oh, okay. So you do everything yourself. Yeah.
Let me take my retainers out. And I'm just playing. Did you see that? Did you see the Genius documentary? Yeah. Okay. When I said let me take.
What was I gonna say? Hold on. I want to talk about the comedy too. So your music is great. I love it. It's one of the things that is important that Jill said is the listening part. I think, especially for people that may have friends struggling. I remember when I started off as a therapist years ago, I would have a hard time with silence because they would say something. I'm like, I got to take the pain away. I got to take the pain away. I got to say something. And I've learned over the years that I got to just listen. Like people just want to be heard. And that's one thing you said about your wife when you opened up to her was that she listened. She was like, all right, I just want to talk. Like, and I thought that was dope because a lot of people don't understand how powerful it is to just be listened to. You don't have to be a whole therapist to be able to listen to somebody. Joe's not a therapist and he's reaching people.
Joe's not a therapist. Please don't hit him up asking for therapy. People have done it. I'm not a therapist. Can you say that again? Brother, I saw you on the Celeste The Therapist podcast. Now, I was touched by my uncle's neighbor. Whoa! You need to hit up Celeste. My shit just say Joe. Hers say Celeste The Therapist. I ain't got no credentials behind my name. But I ain't even got a... Okay, I'm sorry.
What is wrong with you?
That is what people do. It's funny.
I believe you. No, I believe you. I believe you. I know. Oh my God. I can only imagine the DMs.
Bro, I remember I came out, but I was talking about my mental health struggles in church. One of the dudes from the band texted me, yeah, so like a long, like, hey, thanks for saying what you said in church. And my cousin touched me at this age. My daddy did this. My mama did. And by the time I was done reading, I'm like,
he was depressed.
I had to leave that nigga on red. I ain't gonna lie. I finished reading.
So then what? This is.
Had to leave that boy a thumbs up. Can you imagine bury your soul to somebody, all you get back is a okay, got it.
Wait, you responded, right, Joe? We want people to know you're a good person. You responded. You didn't know what to say. Oh.
All right, you want the honest truth?
Wait, no, tell. Where's?
Sorry, I had to cut the fan on. It's getting hot in here. Oh.
Wait, but you didn't know what to say, right?
I didn't know I was autistic at the time.
Oh, when did you get diagnosed?
When I was 30.
Oh, snap.
That's how I looked when she told me too. No, that's exactly. Oh, so wow.
No, I'm just thinking about all of the unexplained things that were happening that you didn't understand.
No, that is exactly how I look. Like I'm like, oh, so I'm not crazy. Okay. Hey, it's all right. I'm just autistic.
No, because there's certain things that there's certain things that is hard to do. So
like my thoughts when I saw that text message, I was just like,
yeah, it's like, oh my gosh, like
these things didn't happen to me.
I know. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
But
so for people listening, it's not like Joe's an asshole.
I'm not an asshole. I just didn't know what to like.
He just didn't know what to do. Yeah. I have my son's autistic, so I understand.
Like 6-7 years ago, I was not in therapy. I was still trying. Honestly, y'all want the truth? I was still trying to not to kill myself. Like, and I looked at the message and I said, for sure. Anyway, like, let me go back to trying not to murder myself before I can help other people not murder themselves.
There you go. Yeah.
So I did it the wrong way at first. I came out about mental health. I started trying to talk to people in the middle of a depressive episode. It did not go well at all. Like, there are podcast interviews out there where I'm talking to people and they're, trying to give me hope. I'm like, it's okay. You'll be able to recover from this. I'm like, listen, people get cancer and go through chemo for decades and never recover. I will die this way. It was just very, very
dark.
It was just not it wasn't the right time.
Yeah. All right.
But that being said, I didn't. It feels a lot like, I don't know, like sometimes getting stuff put on you that it feels similar. I'm saying similar. I'm drawing comparisons because I don't need nobody to say, oh, it feels similar to get molested. Something happens to you, someone, like gets into a personal, you get into a personal situation, someone touches you personally, and it's like, I didn't ask for this. I'm sure this isn't a bad person.
Oh, I see what you're saying. It's triggering. It's very triggering. Yeah. So it's good for people that are listening who may be in, like, hear something and because I see some therapists still write, listen, I'm not your therapist. I know I talk a lot about mental health on social media, but it's triggering when you guys DM me and blah, blah, blah. Right. And so I know I've had to like set boundaries as well with people because I talk a lot about mental health. And so I think because people feel validated and heard, they're like, oh my God, they understand my story. Let me like share my story. But I think for people who may have done that and felt like, wow, they didn't respond or whatever, just understand that it could be triggering to do that. The best place is like a support group or a therapist or someplace where there's this, where you're letting people know, or even asking like, hey, can I share my story before just like spewing it out there, because it could be very triggering for people.
Oh yeah, and that being said, like with the therapy and all that, like I'm good now. I saw a woman at the bar. Comedy. I was doing an open mic. Saw a woman at the bar, and she came up to me and was just like, "Hey, don't want to make it awkward. Read your story. I've been through things too. I appreciate you." And I was just like, "Oh, thank you." We talked a little bit about it, but I mean, it's funny though. Even with all the things that I've responded to and all that, like I feel like my response to that text message would have been like, I think you need to talk to a therapist about this.
Yeah.
And that would have been it, But I mean, the other thing too, like I was like 20 something, like 26, 25, getting messages from like 45-year-olds, 50-year-olds. I'm like, if you ain't got to figure it out, what am I doing here? I'm like, dog, this is. Woo! You ever heard an old black man talk? It's depressing. Like, ooh. And then what happens? Oh man, like, every day I get up, it sounds like popcorn, snap, crackle, my knees, my ankles, all those years of oppression from the men. Oh my God. Like, I don't want to get old, but Yeah, that was part of it too. Like most of the people that were hitting me up were like older than me who had kids my age.
Like, how the hell am I supposed to help you? I can't even help myself.
I still got this gun to my head, and you asking me how to get the gun away from yours. Like I'm looking for bullets, and you talking about how do I stop? But it was a confusing place to be in. But nowadays, like I said, I do I can relate to people. There have been years of therapy in between.
Yeah, good. You've been delivered.
Yeah, because like that's what I'm.
Wait, hold on. We got a few more minutes. I want to go into your first comedy show. Like, what was that like to go on stage? And did you prepare for it, or how did you prepare? What was it? Did you get like booed?
I went to a
like,
comedy
what happened?
show. There was a comedian from LA headlining this comedy show. They hyped him up, talking about how good he was.
Okay.
By the time this man got off stage, I was embarrassed to be black. And he's black. Like he did so bad that I'm in the back. Like,
oh my god, your first show?
Huh?
Your first show?
I wasn't on the show. This was just a show I went to. This wasn't my first show.
He came after you.
No. I showed up in the audience. Like I was just showing up to watch the comedy show.
Okay.
And I'm like, hey, this is terrible. Like, because I've seen Chappelle live. I've seen not a bunch of people because I'm not a big fan of crowds. But Chris Rock going on tour, I may have to go ahead and But like I've seen like Roy Wood Jr., Dave Chappelle, John Mulaney's coming in town. Cat Williams, Roy Wood Jr., Dave Chappelle, Cat Williams, like 3 of my most favorite comedians of all time. I've seen them live. I see this dude. I'm like, man, what the fuck is this? Like, what is this? And then I, went to what the fuck is this? Like, I started trying to change my accent so people wouldn't think that I was African American. I tried to go Nigerian. What is this? What is this? But so he did so bad that I kind of realized, like, I don't want people to think that I am this bad. I need to start doing comedy. Like I could do a better job than this. So I went to an open mic the next week. Didn't read any books. Didn't prepare any material. Just got on stage and started talking. You can imagine how that went for 4 minutes. Not great, but I thought
it was going to be like this hero story of like, and I wooed the crowd. You're like, it didn't go great.
My comedy career started just like my football career. Hey man, what the hell he doing out there? Somebody come get him. Who is that? Like, yeah, you're right. People be expecting, yes, and then the heavens opened up and God.
I came from church, Joe. You already know the vibes.
I made a couple jokes. I got a couple chuckles. Here's the joke I made that got the laughs. And it didn't even get laughs where I wanted to. I don't even crack this joke anymore. But I'm like, it really makes me afraid to actually become a successful comedian. You hear about all these other successful comedians like Dave Chappelle. People run up to him now when he's with his kids. I'm Rick James, bitch. Like that kind of thing. I don't need anybody running up on me when I'm at my granddaughter's quinceañera talking about Joe Barksdale, punch her in the asshole. And I'm like, whoa, that's right. I said it's a quinceañera because I sent them my information to Ancestry.com, and it turns out that I'm 99% Spanish. I spent $300 to figure out that I was from Spain. That's the part that everybody laughed at. I spent $300 to figure out that I was from Spain. The part that I wanted people to laugh at was like in the first 2 seconds of that joke. But needless to say, like I got a couple chuckles.
That must have been a sympathy laugh.
Probably. Well, probably. But it was really bad. Like it was bad, I'm not gonna sit here and say like, oh, I stepped on stage. It was bad. It was so bad. I played it for my wife, and she's like, "Why did you say thank you when you got off stage?" Like, no, you just need to get off stage after a performance like that. You don't need to say nothing. That's my time to go. Like. It's like you get up there, you lay this egg on stage, and it's like, thank you so much for having me. My name is Joe Barksdale. Put your ass down. We don't care who you are. Like, thank you guys so much for the opportunity. This ain't no award show, my man. Like, sit down.
Wait, how did you get the confidence to get back up on stage?
Oh, I just did it again. I mean, like I said, it started like football. So what did I do with football? You get your ass beat, you show back up again the next day. Like, okay.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, it happens, you know. That shit don't happen now, you know. But yeah, like, you know, and I had to learn things over time. Like, shout out to Roy Wood Jr. Shout out to Gastor Almonte. Them dudes are like,
I see Roy Wood. He's so funny. His podcast is so funny.
Those are like my two comedy mentors right now. So however bad I am, just put it on them. No, I'm just playing. I've been following Roy since like college when he was doing prank calls. I found out about Gastor through a show that Roy Wood Jr. hosted. I reached out to both of them. They've both been very responsive and helpful. And like,
that's dope.
Even right now, like what I'm doing in my career, you know, Gastor and Roy have been like Roy from a material standpoint, like Roy is real. I remember I sent Roy my first like 20-minute set, and it was good. Like, okay, if you listen to it, it's like, hey, this is funny. People laughing, you know. But I told Roy, I'm like, hey man, I'm trying to go win the Mark Twain Prize for American Humor, so I need the real. Roy said, well, if you want the real, first of all, half the stuff don't nobody care about. I mean, people gonna laugh, but like, ain't nobody gonna remember this. You sitting here talking about ABC. We need to hear about you. You know, who are you? Yeah. What's going on in your life?
That's his style. That's his style.
And so I rewrote all my material that night.
Nice.
And then from then on, I started writing about things that I want to talk about. Why I don't like talking about football. You know, people are all, I mean, I said this on stage last night. Like, it'd be great just one time to hear someone say, like, you know, like, hey, are you in tech? Or like, hey, do you wash windows? I mean, do you work at Goodwill? But instead, all I ever get is, hey, Hoss, what position do you play on the gridiron? Like, and then people always want to know if you know Tom Brady. Of course I don't know Tom Brady. You ever seen Tom? No. Anyway, talking about stuff like that. Talking about stuff like autism. You know, you get people that try to get on stage and talk about like, oh, that joke didn't work. I guess I'm autistic. And it's like, I don't like that. Like, as an autistic person, as someone who's seen people with autistic struggles, I don't like it. As a retarded person, I don't like it when you get on stage and say, oh, I'm retarded. Like, no, you're not. Because I am. And I know. Like,
right.
But I'll make it funny. Like I say, I start off with like, you know, like the word retard, which it really is a catch-all word in the Black community. Yeah. You even said it earlier. Something wrong with you, boy. You're crazy. I mean, it seemed like the funnier you are, the more abrasive it gets. Like, boy, you don't even got no mama. Boy, that's hilarious. Like, you know. And I talk about like, you know, what it really means to be retarded. Not saying like don't say retarded, but just I'm not up here saying it to get laughs. I'm saying it up here to make a point. And then I go into like, you know, like I say like, look, my mom used to call me retarded. Like, you know, whenever she would get mad, like, boy, I had to call your name more than once. Like, you retarded? Like, you know. And she would always call me retarded as opposed to taking me to a doctor to find out
what was going on. Yeah.
And that's why when I was diagnosed with autism, I'm like, wow, she was on to something this whole time. And here I just thought I had a bad mom. God works in mysterious ways, don't it? But you know, and I go into like talking about autism, difficulty understanding others, difficulty understanding yourself, you know, like.
It's dope because you're educating people and making them laugh at the same time. Even though we laugh, people will think twice about using the word retarded, right? Yeah. Like, that's dope.
And Gaston and
Roy does that too. Roy does that. Roy does that. I mean, he teaches with it, you know, like it's good. I like it.
Like, I don't know. I'm very, like, I ain't gonna lie. Meeting Roy Wood Jr. and Gaston Almonte and actually having them answer my phone calls has been the greatest motivator for my comedy career that there could, like, because it's one thing to meet somebody. It's another thing for that person to say like, oh, you cool, you know, but it's another thing to actually have a relationship with that person. Like, I met Kobe Bryant, and it was kind of the same with him. Like, I remember the first time Kobe picked up the phone, I was like, oh, niggas can't tell me nothing, dog. I'm on the phone with Kobe Bryant. Like, oh, you got to call me back? All right, for sure. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I remember one time I saw Kobe in public, and like, that was this is probably the scariest thing I've ever done. It's Kobe Bryant in public in LA. Crowd of people around him. I walk up to him like, "Oh, what's good, Kobe? Oh, what's good, Joe?" I couldn't believe that I was getting dapped up, and he knew who I was, and there was just so much confidence. I'm like, I'm that nigga. I'm about to go try for the Lakers, dog.
And you know, with like Roy answering your calls and stuff, it's said because he's not going to waste time for somebody that doesn't have potential, you know. So
and
it
it's
says
funny
a lot.
because you talk about the mental health and the autism and all that.
Mhm.
I see him in gas stores just being nice, like. But you're right, because my wife has said the same thing. Like, I guarantee you, they ain't just talking to anybody like this. But in my mind, so
I'm like that too. Like, yeah, when people reach out for certain things. This was.
So if I wasn't funny, I wouldn't be telling you about Roy Wood Jr. or nothing. Hey, I met him one time. He was a great dude. He ain't answered my text.
I would have to break it down to you, little light.
Like, all right, thank you guys so much, Joe. Can you hang around for a little bit after this? I'm gonna invoice you for this session. I'm gonna need about an hour. Like, listen, Roy don't think he's funny. No?
I have never laughed this much on the podcast episode where we're talking about. I did not know it was gonna go like this.
But that's the goal, right? Like to get us to the point.
Yeah.
Because if you can laugh about it, you're that much more comfortable talking about it now.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like I will do certain things. I never had a guest that has been as funny and entertaining and educational as you are. Like you're just a person of like multi-talents. I can only imagine where your brain looks as far as your level of creativity because you do it seamlessly. I know it's seamlessly. Like it's impressive. I tell people
I'm just glad out of anything that you said, the two things, I mean, yes, I am happy that I'm funny, but I'm glad that I'm actually saying something. You hear that, Roy? I'm saying something now, just playing. but I am glad that I'm saying something because that's what my heroes do.
Tell people how they can reach you if they wanted to look up your comedy, your music.
So the website you can find me on the easiest is the FBI's Most Wanted list. So it's just www. No, I'm just playing. You can find me on www.joebarksdale.com. I mean, honestly, you can Google Joe Barksdale. It ain't really no Joe Barksdale's out there. Like, if you Google Joe Barksdale, you can find my Spotify, YouTube,
everything,
Instagram, all of that. But you can go to joebarksdale.com. That's the landing page. Or you can just call me. My number. No, don't call.
Yeah. You just told
your number out
no niggas you ain't want them DMing you. Now you talk about here's my number. You send the mixed messages. Bye, Joe.
All kind of voicemails.
Thank you, Joe. Bye.
Thank you.